We shall begin painting by first creating a colored ground or underpainting. For this, take a large size broad brush and begin to apply color thinly. This allows you to exploit the quality of transparency of acrylic paints. As you apply the colors in broad strokes, the color areas you create should approximate the hues and shades that are visible and also shall appear finally. For example, apply a flesh tint where the head will be. As you apply the underpainting, build it up in layers and paint from light to dark. The layers that are thus created will impart greater depth to the image as the transparency of the thinly applied acrylics will allow the gradual build of tones and hues to be visible. Now take a medium sized flat brush and begin to make the figure. With a neutral color mark the head and then taking it as one unit on the brush length and mark the proportions of the body. The general thumb rule for calculating proportions, a perfect body is said to be 8 heads high. Over centuries, artists have tried to work out a formula for the perfect human proportions, which has varied from artist to artist. Early examples of this formula being worked upon are seen in the work of Roman architect Vitruvius, the Renaissance artist Leonardo da Vinci, and the Northern Renaissance artist Albus Dürer, to name just a few. In fact, Leonardo's drawing of human figure made to illustrate a point about human proportions in Vitruvius' book, published in 1511, is known famously as the Vitruvius Man. Take a dark hue and mark the hair that frame the face. With the same dark hue, indicate the horizontal pattern of the upper garment, the direction of which alludes to the posture of the model. Apply a thin layer of a dark neutral hue and broadly indicate the figure and its pose, such as torso, arms, etc. You can vary your tones between a dark neutral color and brown. Here, acrylics are primarily being employed thinly and they create the effect of transparency that is usually associated with watercolors. As Leonardo da Vinci wrote, from painting which serves the eye, the noblest sense, arises harmony of proportions, just as many different voices joined together and singing simultaneously produce a harmonious proportion which gives such satisfaction to the sense of hearing that listeners remain spellbound with admiration as if half alive. Hold the brush at different angles and use it to execute broad strokes and also linear strokes. As you draw and paint in color, ensure that your strokes follow and suggest the form and its structure. The reference to anatomy makes a convincing figure. Correct proportions are essential in painting. As you fill color, use linear strokes to draw the curve of the calves or the form of the knee. In this exercise, we are essentially going to employ the transparency of the medium and build up the image in thin glazes. Take water on your brush and merge the color to create a soft effect. Now take a dark hue and begin to define the hair that fall over the shoulders. With a flash tint color, the area of the face. Again with a brush, merge in color areas. The form and the background are being built up gradually, and as you build up color, keep on merging it so that the overall effect is of softness. Take light hue and apply it where the color appears in the garment. Take up colors that are in background and apply them in the space around the figure. Due to the transparency of the layers of pigment, the basic structure of the form that has been indicated before remains visible beneath the layers being applied. Add warm hues to give depth. Now with a dark hue paint the hair with greater care over the basic color area indicated before. With a light touch indicate the contours of the face. Continue to paint the hair and also begin to mark the shoulders, arms and the torso. On careful observation, you can see that the brush is essentially following the form that has been painted before. The brush strokes should be applied with a light touch and their flow imparts an expressive feel to the work. Take flash tint and block the color of the foot and the arm. Now in the warm tint, begin to define the torso. The brush strokes as they follow the pattern and folds of the garment are indicative of the pose of the model. Take flash tint and place another layer on the face. Paint the shades and tones visible on the face and the neck. Apply flash tint on the arms with the direction of the brush strokes following the structure of the form. With a light tint mark the lighter tones on the arms and then on the face. With an even lighter flash tint, begin to mark the highlights on the face, on the chin, cheek, and nose. While painting the face, your strokes have to be more measured and carefully applied. As you build up form in layers, allow time for the layers to dry before applying another on top. With a flash tint, begin to gradually bring out the face. Even as you paint over the earlier applied tones, their effect will show through in the subtle tones that will be visible. Now with a lighter flesh tint, paint the tones visible on the neck. With a warm tint, paint the shaded areas on the face, under the brows, nose, and on the lips. With these applications of tones, the face begins to acquire mass and definition. Also add a few strokes of the warm tint in the hair. Give touches of warm and lighter tints on the face. Work in the flesh tint on the neck as well. As you work, keep on studying the model and the fall of light on the form carefully. Continue with giving a better definition to the arms with flesh tint. Take up the dark hue and give sharper definition to the hair. As you paint, the lower layers will show through and give greater depth to the colors. With flash tint, place further touches on the face, which will add depth and detail. The subtle variation of tint and gradually building up tones will give a lifelike quality to the face. Acrylic also give you flexibility to complete cover the lower layers if any correction needs to be made. Now work out the tones on the neck. Now take up the blue tone of the background and begin to fill in color. Making measured strokes around the contours of the figure. Here too, use a variation of shades and create an active monochromatic ground. The layers that were placed below give greater depth to the surface. Now taking a light hue, make the cloth covered stool the model is seated on. Paint with careful brush strokes around the figure and with the strokes following the trap of the cloth. Let the colors below show through where the shadows are to be depicted. Now with a dark hue make the shadows on the ground below the cloth. Now mark the bright highlights on the face with a light flesh tint and a small size round brush around the mouth, below the eyes, on the nose, on the chin. Give touches of the light reflected off the hair. Place touches of light on the figure around the shoulders and torso. Soften and merge these. With flash tint, make the highlighted areas on the arms. If certain color areas have merged, they should be defined again. Now give touches of light that falls on the figure, but merge them so that you get subtle tones and not dark areas of light and dark. With a few flowing strokes, define the folds and shades on the drapery placed over the stool. Place touches of light color on the figure where light illuminates the figure but soften your brush strokes. At the end, bring out and sharpen a few details of the attire. Also, touch up the elements that require to be refreshed, such as the feet.